As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
Let's start with our favorite, our folks at 100 Thieves. And this is a bit of drama. I'll call it drama. Sorry, I'm trying to get the link here. Drama that happened between Dr. Disrespect and Nadeshot and G2 Carlos. Here we go. And let me just sort of explain what actually happened here, if you guys can see this. So what actually happened here, the headline is G2 Carlos and Nadeshot rebuff Dr. Disrespect's claim that unless you're FaZe, esports orgs don't make money. So the doc, in his infinite wisdom, basically said, not basically, quoted, saying, unless you're FaZe, esports orgs don't make money. Okay. And you can see the tweet here. And Carlos from G2 comes in and says, FaZe made minus 17 million in EBITDA with just above 50 million in revenue. G2 and couple others' actual business looks miles ahead of theirs, and it's not even close. Their revenue is pumped up by acting like a bank through individual sponsorship deals for their talent. Business is a literal hole. Hold on. Okay, so that's what G2 Carlos said.
Wow.
And then Nadeshot piped up and said, lay off the gin and tonics, doc. So some spicy drama between the doc and G2 Carlos and Nadeshot. I'm curious what you guys make of this. Jimmy, maybe start with you.
Yeah, sure. My first thought was how much I loved Carlos's response, because one, unfiltered, also two, just like slamming him with facts, and three, it's just like, Doc, how, I don't want to say ignorant, but like he knows more about the space than I could hope to have. Doc's in the limelight day in and day out for years now, building up one of the most recognizable brands. And that's just such a senseless comment to say that, I don't know about FaZe Clan in particular, because they are probably one of the worst examples of a profitable business, I would imagine. So I love Carlos kind of just slamming him with facts. To me, the most interesting part about that exchange is Nadeshot chiming in and Nadeshot also not pulling punches, and also taking the G2 side, because that 100 Thieves is another strong brand, another brand I'm sure that's having trouble monetizing, a brand we've covered recently with a raise, and which we can only assume is because they're bleeding cash and need to fund, even they came out and said they're not interested in being profitable. So, man, I'm just drooling over here. I wish I read this story earlier so I could better formulate something to say. I'm just going to say I love it. It's juicy for sure. And like, it kind of gives me second thoughts about Doc running his own game, because if you don't know the industry that you're in, you know what I mean? Like, what else is lacking? I know that's an overstatement.
No, totally fair. Yeah. I took this to mean, though, that the doc was talking just about revenue, not necessarily like because I feel like when the doc said they're the only ones making money, I think he kind of meant like top, like just like literally making revenue, I assume. But even that we know isn't true, right? Because we know now the revenue they're making based on them having filed it, and it's actually not very impressive relative. I think forget his name from G2 actually was right that other companies have more. I do think my one thing about Nadeshot, he came in with a funny comment, lay off the gin and tonics. I would have been more impressed if he came in and said like, well, 100 Thieves did 100 million in revenue, and like we could be making money if we wanted to right now. Like if he had said that, I'd be like, all right, props, Nadeshot. Like that's kind of backing it up. But just to make that comment, like, oh, lay off the gin and tonics, like to me, that's not a great comeback when someone says like, hey, your business doesn't make money, and your response is like, oh, bro, like that's not to me like a great well-reasoned business argument.
It's a great point. Are we surprised that that's all you get from a guy named Nadeshot? Like, this is not Satya Nadella coming back going, lay off the gin and tonics, right? Like, it's
Elon Musk
Nadeshot,
would
right?
do that, though.
It's like high school dropout Call of Duty player, like, lucked into running an esports business. I think this was the expected response from him. I mean, the question for you guys is like, is this like the pot calling the kettle black here, right? Lindsay, I don't know. Is this a bit like none of them are making money? So like they're all making fun of each other. I mean, I don't know. I see them correcting the doc, but 100 Thieves just did this story proudly proclaiming they don't make money. They're not profitable, right? Like proudly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the doc was definitely coming in a little bit too hot, but I think that there's some underlying things there that are definitely true about the profitability of these businesses. But I guess what surprises me the most is that he's the one saying it because he's the one who like wants to be in on this. So why would you crap on an industry that you're also trying to kind of get into?
Could it be that the doc never got his esports team, right? And this is him sort of just like you may not see him criticizing game developers now, right? Because he's got his own game development studio, right? He may not come out and say, well, like 85% of new game development studios fail, like, by the way, right? Like, because he's got his own now, whereas he doesn't have his own esports org. So it's sort of easy for him to say.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. It's just kind of like a weird and pointless shot to take, I guess, is the thing. I don't necessarily, I think
that's a good point.
There's parts of it that are true, but it's just like who cares? First of all, like, I don't care about his opinion on teams. Honestly, he doesn't run one. And secondly, it's just not his thing. So like, why say it? Who cares?
Well, to be fair, just so you guys see, it was in response to Jake Lucky, who said, in the past 6 months, TSM has lost Myth, Daquan, Hamlin, Snipedown, Bjergsen, and the director of esports operations. What is happening? And his response was, what do you mean is happening? Unless your FaZe esports orgs don't make money. In other words, TSM, I guess, couldn't afford to keep all these people.
Well, so I think we're not giving Doc enough credit here, where like, I think we're taking him way too literally when he says like, unless you're FaZe. I think what he's kind of saying, and maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, is the teams that are doing well are the ones like FaZe that have content creators and focus on content creation, which also happens to be what Doc does. And, this team, TSM, not being able to pay some or choosing not to pay some of their best players is actually, this is something we've talked about many times on the podcast. Like a lot of these teams that play in franchise leagues or spend a lot of money on salaries are not making money because realistically, the money is coming from eyeballs, content creation, doing things on the side, collaborations, not winning esports tournaments. So like maybe that's what the doc meant and just didn't word it correctly. So people are thinking, oh, he's saying the only team that works is FaZe. Maybe he was speaking more broadly about something that I think we all agree on, actually.
That's honestly how I took it, but I still just feel like this is such a useless comment. Why not be like, oh, teams are pointless. Everyone should be influencers, or we should focus on content creation. That's where the money is.
That's sort of what he said, but just a little bit more politically correct.
I was going to say, unless FaZe Doc is, somewhere on the horizon, but I don't know if that's the conclusion you draw here. Chris says, non-answer from Nadeshot speaks volumes. Yeah, I agree with that. Considering they paid for an article talking about how they're not profitable. I mean, like, Chris also says, look no further than Vitality raising $50 million for their new CSGO roster. Chris, I have that article teed up. We are going to talk about it. So I'm so happy you mentioned that. It is something I'm going to get to.